What's up, everybody? My name is Bryce Rankins, and this is my co-host, Brian Romero.
Hello.
And you're listening to episode 50 of Sneaky Geek. We made it. We did 50 episodes. 50 whole episodes and like 13 bonus episodes somewhere in there as well, which is super exciting. Thank you for listening to all those episodes. If you did. If you didn't listen to all those episodes, that's okay. That's a lot of work.
We still love you.
We still love you. We still appreciate you. This episode was recorded from our live stream of our 50th episode on Twitch, which means we ripped the audio straight from the VOD, which means you're getting the direct conversation we had online on Twitch, which is available for viewing on Twitch.
And also, we have a Discord and a Twitch channel.
Yes, we have both of those things now. Look us up, Sneaky Geek Podcast on Twitch, and look up the Sneaky Geek Discord by just typing in Sneaky Geek to your local Discord office. Anyway, this episode, without giving too much away, is all about Pokemon. So, without further ado, this is Sneaky Geek.
Come catch them all with us.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sneaky Geek, now live and in color. Ooh. Except for those of you who are listening to this 4 days from now when we are posting this on Spotify, in which case it is not live and it is still in black and white. My name is Bryce Rankins, and this is my lovely co-host, Brian Romero.
I was going to wave. I'm still going to wave, but like...
So this is a podcast, and Brian is for those of you who are only listening to this.
Because we have video right now.
And speaking of this is a podcast... One of our very first guests ever has returned to us, Shannon.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah,
Shannon
that's
was on
me.
our very first episode where we talked about fandoms in general because she and I had just met at a Steven Universe Art and Origins panel and then spent the next 3 days going to other events, other panels, and then eventually actually going and playing Pokemon Go. So it all we did.
You were with me. We caught our first legendary on Pokemon Go that day.
Full circle.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
Today we are talking about Pokemon, and with us we have longtime friends of the podcast. More than just Shannon, we also have Dave Ziegler,
sporting that Santa hat.
Dave's doing jazz hands, which you finally, all of you watching, finally will get to see. And then additionally, our video game historian, Nick Frotto.
Yay.
Hello, everybody.
Yay.
Hello. Happy to be here.
All right, so today we are talking about Pokemon. And we've been wanting to talk about Pokemon since day one. We keep saying, one day we'll do a Pokemon episode. Well, it's our 50th episode. We did it. We made it to 50. So,
Cue the horns.
We are
Cue the horns.
Anyway, that's my DJ noises. Please hire me. So we are talking about Pokemon in all of its iterations, from Mystery Dungeon to Puzzle League to Snap to Go to the television show to the cards. So I've got a fair amount of Pokemon origin stuff I want to talk about, but before we do, I kind of want to get just a quick, how did you get into Pokemon? When did you get into Pokemon? Share with me a Pokemon story. That's the words I was
introduction.
Little introduction of how Pokemon relates to you and your life. Let's start with Dave.
Popcorn.
I was 10 years old, and I was up late the night before, and I accidentally turned off my alarm clock. So I overslept, and when I got to Professor Oak's lab, the only... actually, you like that? Thank you.
Yeah.
You had me in the first half. You had me, honestly.
I was like, where is this going? You overslept.
I was like, okay. I'm sitting here thinking, what was out, Okay.
I at first thought it was your Christmas experience, to be completely honest. I was like, okay, this is a present story.
He got us good.
Thank you. I actually am a Gen 1 player. So one of my uncles taught English in Japan for a number of years, met a lovely woman there, and got married, had kids, and they go back every so often to see her family. And so they had just come back from Japan, and we were all at my grandparents' house. This is let's see, this has to be Memorial Day weekend 1996, and my cousin has brought back Pokemon Red, and I'm like, hey, can I try that? Because I've heard some of my students talking about it. I've seen the hype all over the place. And he's like, yeah, but don't save over my game. Okay. I played 5 minutes and I was freaking hooked. I mean, it appealed. The hunter and gatherer nature of the game appealed to the collector in me. Go figure. And yeah, I was hooked. And so when I took my debate team to the national tournament that year, I explained to my wife at the time, I have to get this game so I have something to do on the airplane ride to Minnesota. And then I've played pretty much every version of the game since then. Not always as they came out. I got out of the games around Gen 5 and Gen 6, but boy, Gen 7 reeled me right back in with a vengeance. And so yeah, so that's how I got into it.
It's awesome. So you had the privilege to play Red and Green, or at least the Japanese iterations, it sounds like, right?
Well, I played 5 minutes of Red, and
the Japanese version. He
had both the Japanese and the English version, and because they could read Japanese, and so I just tried it on his English version, just because I didn't want to screw something up while I was exploring and playing around.
And hiragana.
Yeah, so I got blue, and I still have my blue cartridge with the Mew that one of my students duplicated for me using the trade glitch. Yeah, still got that bad boy in there. So thanks again for that, Jay, wherever you are.
Nick.
That's awesome. Yeah, so this actually does date back to me being about, no, I don't want to say 10. I would say 7 at the time, right? When that was 7 or 8 when the games were released. But I did wake up very early to a surprise. And no, it wasn't the lack of Pokemon that the professor had. But I walked downstairs and it was the year that I got the Game Boy Color. So it was the release of the Game Boy Color. And the spoiled kid that I was, my father... Oh, sorry, Santa Claus brought me both red and blue.
You're welcome. I do my best.
Thanks. Dad?
Well.
Right, yeah, so I remember vividly, in our family, Santa never wrapped the presents. And the Game Boy Color was just sitting there. On the left side, quite literally, was Pokemon Red. On the right was Pokemon Blue. Didn't know that they were essentially the same game, but different content, right? Or just certain different variations of Pokemon. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. I got both Pokemon games. And I interchangeably went back and forth on that holiday, swapping the carts. And like, I don't know why I did that. Instead of just like playing through one for the rest of the day, I was like, okay, a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, get my fix here, go on. But that was my first introduction, and it was mostly word of mouth through the schoolyard where I heard about it, was exposed to it, and then of course when the anime came, and we can get into the history later, which I know we will. That's kind of what really hooked me to be like, I need to play the games and get the experience this myself and not just hear it, through word of mouth. And but it was an amazing Christmas, played the heck out of it and became obsessed. And I was definitely one of the individuals who bought into Pokémania in the late 90s and right into the Y2K. So been a huge Pokemon fan ever since. I kind of dropped away post Gen 3, but I picked back up when Sword and Shield came in, and then I got absolutely hooked on the trading card game most recently. When the drought happened, I think post-pandemic of like you couldn't find any cards, that's when I got hooked into it. But now you can find the endless supply. Yeah, you could find an endless supply now, which is so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my introduction, and Blue ended up being my favorite, I think. And because Blastoise was my favorite Pokemon until this guy in the background, for those, this is a podcast, fat boy over there, good old Snorlax. Yeah. Snorlax ended up, I think he's my forever favorite now as an adult. But that's my spiel. Shannon, popcorn.
Woo! Popcorn, whoever. I will say, just real quick, like Snorlax, just as in general, don't we all feel a little bit more like Snorlax as we grow up?
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, as a kid, we're like, who's this sleepy
I've started
guy?
looking like Snorlax, so yeah.
For those of you, this is a podcast, and no, just so. I think this is funny because, when I was 10, I woke up, I was late. No, I started with the Pokemon show. For me, I actually was not into the games till much later, but I started with the Pokemon show as a kid, probably before I was 10. And I was really into it. My dad at the time, well, still, he is a comic book collector, owns his own store, loves that kind of nerd stuff. So when he saw I liked something that he had access to, he bought me like a bunch of Pokemon cards. He's like, here, you like this show? Great. He even got me like this, it was like a Pokeball that like opened, like you could press the button and it would open and there was a golden card inside. And the golden card was...
Those are Burger King.
Were those from Burger King? Was
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I never knew where he got it, but I knew that he was like, you like Pokemon. It's just his way. It's like a dad's way. Oh, you like something? Here, let me buy it for you and show you I care and I notice or whatever. So he'd buy me all this stuff, bought me all these cards that I was like, cool. And then I just like put them in a big binder or whatever. But I didn't have a lot of people to talk about it with or like really get into it with. I think just being like a gal in a small like community, I was like, whatever. My dad sold them. He took the cards back to his store and sold them later. So I don't even have my old cards. He's like, you're not into that anymore. So I'll
The
just...
story went from wholesome to villain origin story
This is
so
like-
fast.
Yeah, he did.
I was going to ask you if you still had them because the value of Gen 1 cards is just like unbelievable.
No, I honestly
I feel like
think...
you got to throw out the whole dad now. He's ruined.
Yeah, no, he does this. He's like, oh, you're into Yu-Gi-Oh now? He'll buy me all that. Gets me like he's like, I don't have a case for these. Here's a pile. Like other people will sell stuff to him as a comic book store owner. And he's like, oh, well, my child likes this. Let me give it to my child. Maybe they'll find something to do with it. It's a toy, it's a card or whatever. But I still can't believe he took my Pokemon cards. He also took my original, he got at a yard sale, the Nintendo, like you can't even buy anymore. Yeah, the ones with the big cartridges this big, and he sold that too. So, go figure. But
this is more of just like airing grievances, I feel. This turned into, hey, how did you like...
Yeah.
Still love him.
Thanks, Shannon. Sharing a lot.
It's all right. It's okay. Now when he gives me stuff, I hide it so he can't find it to sell later. So we're all good. We're all good.
Welcome back to our Festivus episode.
Yeah.
Just in time for the rest of the airing
that's
grievances.
when I
Pizza strength
decided.
later.
But later when I got into video games, like I want to say it wasn't until college when I was dating someone into Pokemon and he was like, hey, try this game, try Pokemon Pearl, see if you like it. And I was like, oh, this is so much fun, that I got really into the games, but I could not finish the Pokemon games. And I think this is just, I don't know if anyone has this, but I loved it so much that I didn't want it to end. And I would play for like 8 hours and then I'd go to sleep and then I'd wake up and I'd play it and then I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I need a break. And then that break would be years long and I would just never pick it up again. So I want to say it was last year or the year before I beat my very first Pokemon game.
Congratulations.
But I had played so many of them. I'd played Pokemon Green, Pokemon Pearl and Diamond. I can't remember which of the two I started with, but that was my first. And then I played Sword and Shield was the one I beat. I loved Sun and Moon. I didn't play Ultra Sun or Moon, but I've heard those were really, really good as well.
I like them.
Yeah. So lots of fun.
The grind on those early games is real, so I don't blame you for not finishing some of those earlier games.
And I do think like I was into the grind at some like level too. Like I didn't mind that kind of aspect, but at some point it was just like getting towards the end and I was just so, I guess either if it was worried that it was going to end or it was just the excitement of it because of the grinding just kind of made me fall out. But I still loved it. It was still very fun. Great games. Very fun. That's my Pokemon origin story, and I guess my dad's villain origin story. So thank you,
Brian.
Doubled up, yeah. Yeah, so I got into, I think I got both the show and the game around the same time, because it just kind of started blowing up when I was in 6th, 7th grade, I think it was. So our good buddy Tate was super into it, and I was like, well, I usually like the things he likes, but everything else just started blowing up everywhere. I'm like, I don't know, this seems like a kid's show kind of thing. And then I watched a few things, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm hooked. And I started playing the game, and I got real into it, and I got the red version. So I played through all of that, and then all our friends started playing as well. And like when we go on field trips, like we would like link cable up, and we would battle, or we would trade if we could. And then the card game came out, and that blew up. A few of our friends played it every once in a while, but we were more collectors. I remember like my mom was super cool about it. She'd go on her lunch break and get me booster packs at the local shop. I think I collected the cards up until like the 3rd or 4th booster set, and then I kind of fell off, but then I was still playing the games. And
Did you sell them later?
no, I still got most of them. They're up at my dad's house, and you really need to go get them and just see what's all up in there.
Just checking.
Yeah, I still got them somewhere.
Your mom, my dad, war. Maybe your mom could convince my dad to I don't know, owe me or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Side tangent. My mom's great about that kind of stuff. Whenever, growing up, you're like, oh, I'm too cool for this now. I'm in high school. I just want to get rid of all these old toys. And my mom's like, no, you love those toys. We're keeping them. So I still have most of my toys because my mom refused to give away.
I know you're not actually cool.
Yeah.
You'll want this back. Trust me.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So,
Nerd.
Exactly. So, yeah, I still got a whole, most of my old Transformers and Ninja Turtles and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I got into the game and the show just a little bit later than everybody else at the time. But when Gen 2 came out with Gold and Silver, Nintendo Power, that I was getting a couple of magazines for, had a really cool deal where you got the game and the player's guide for a discounted price. And I talked my parents into it, hey, I want this to be a birthday present or something whenever it came out. And they went for it. And yeah, so it was cool. I remember getting gold version. Gold? No, I got silver. In the mail with the cool player's guide and just played the hell out of it. So
Gold and Silver to this day, I want to say are in my opinion, and I know I'm jumping the gun, it's just the best gen overall.
Guys. Oh no, I haven't played that one. Guys,
Oh no.
Now I gotta play that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I vividly remember that. That's why when you are just when the marketing for the new Gen 2 came out. Yeah. So Brian's just opening up a whole gate of nostalgia, bringing that up.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. But I think after that,
Crystal remains one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. And so I fell off for a long time after that. I think I skipped 3rd generation, 3rd through 5th or 6th, I think. And then in college, I picked it back up because, again, Tate was are you playing these games? They've updated so much and they're so much fun still. And then, hearing from everybody else, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try it out. And I picked up a DS, maybe? No. I picked up one of the handheld consoles at the time and then picked up the Leaf Green and played through that, just kind of get back into it. But now it's full on color and a remake. And then started out with X, and then I think I played Black 2, and just went through the catalog again. And at that time was just when the Alolan Sun and Moon came out, and I loved those games. So, and then basically been playing ever since. And in related Tate news, shout out to Tate. Every time a new game comes out, we always check with each other to see which one we're going to get, and we'd get the opposite one, and that way we can trade and stuff. But yeah, pretty much every generation since. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Bryce, your turn.
My origin story, without all of the sad tragedy, is pretty similar to Shannon's origin story here. So I didn't have a Game Boy. I have 5 brothers and sisters. If I got a Game Boy, we'd all have to have Game Boys. So one Super Nintendo worked. The Super Game Boy would have solved this problem, and I don't know why that wasn't the solution we all gunned for, but it was not in the cards. So I got into Pokemon pretty much through the show. That half-hour commercial that came on at 7 a.m. every morning just before I walked down the street to go to school. So my best friend in elementary school, Charles, he had a copy, and so I'd occasionally watch him play. I think he had a Tamagotchi of Pikachu.
Oh,
possibly.
yeah. Remember those?
I know he had a Rancor, and that was super cool, and I played with that one all the time. But I think maybe even Bridget might have had a Tamagotchi of Pikachu at some point. But we loved the show, and we watched it all the time. And then Pokemon Snap came out, and I, for whatever reason, during the Nintendo 64, didn't get any of like the main titles. Like I didn't get Zelda, I didn't get Mario, I didn't get Star Fox. Like I always got the weird offshoot stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't get Pokemon Snap, but every single time I went to my friend Garrett's house, I played the heck out of Pokemon Snap.
Nice.
I absolutely loved Pokemon Snap.
It was so much fun.
Didn't really understand how to play the card game, so didn't really play the card game.
Did anyone?
And just kind of absorbed Pokemon in every other facet. Which is crazy because I had a poster with all 150 Pokemon, and you could say like 3 words to describe one, and I would tell you exactly who it was. Like I had them all memorized, and for whatever reason, I never got around to playing them. And then as an adult, I wound up getting a Game Boy Advance, and backwards compatibility will always, drag me in. So I wound up getting Pokemon Red, and then right back into the Shannon origin story of I'd play for a bunch, and then I'd be like, I'm going to sit this down for a minute, I need a break. And then 3 months to a year later, I'd be like, oh yeah, I got to get to that next town. And then I'd open it up, and then I would fight for about an hour trying to figure out where the hell I was. Yep. And then the next day I would remember where I was, and I would actually like get back into it, play for a while, set it down. I still have not actually beaten Pokemon Red.
You busted out like
I remember
so
you
often.
Yeah, you
I
tried,
and then I play for a while, and I make decent headway.
Yeah.
We tried streaming that, I think. You tried streaming that at one point when we were doing a lot of Twitch streams of like, here's my playthrough of Red. And that just died.
It was not successful. I did play through all of Puzzle League on the Switch like virtual console thing they've got going on. And
wait, Pokemon Puzzle League's available on the Switch?
It's on.
I thought it was just the trading card. No.
So the Puzzle League
both on there.
On the 64 is on the.
Yeah. I'm thinking Puzzle Challenge, which is Game Boy.
And then the Game Boy has the trading card game.
Yeah.
Well, no,
That's
Game Boy
sorted.
I was going to say Game Boy also has an iteration of Puzzle League. It's called Puzzle Challenge.
Sorry, the Game Boy Virtual Console.
Yeah. There you go.
Look at it. Oh,
this is a podcast.
Cute.
This is a podcast.
To answer
that out. Just holding it up for the camera.
And there is Pichu and Pikachu dancing around with little blocks. Oh, on the cartridge there. I love seeing old big cartridges. Like, they just don't make them like that anymore. They make them not tasty, but they just don't make them like that anymore.
To answer Shannon's question about the trading card game, I feel like when it first released in the States, everyone just wanted to trade, right? That was the gimmick. Yeah. I remember there being a Pokemon trading card day at Toys R Us where you actually played other people. So you could bring in your cards from like 3 hours and play casually against other people. And that was when I tried to play, but I didn't really know strategy or anything. I lost everything. Yeah. Now, as an adult, though, I play a lot of the Pokemon trading card game because they basically made it iteration, just like all trading card games. They made digital iterations that you could play for free on Steam and on your PC and mobile. I highly recommend it if you want to learn and get into it. And it's addicting. I love trading card games and board games.
I didn't learn how to play the trading card game until 2021, I think. It was like at a WonderCon or something like that.
Because I started getting back into it for shits and gigs.
It was at a con. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to sit down and do a demo at WonderCon.
I have questions. Is it kind of like a deck builder? Like, do you kind of build a deck? Like, you want the evolutions of your Pokemon to be able to use. Okay, so I have only played it as a game once, as when I was a babysitter, and I knew for a fact this was not how you played the game.
But solid babysitter points for.
Yeah, we would spend hours with games and stuff like that. They were super into Pokemon, so we loved that. But we would play the game kind of like how you would play War, where you would each have a stack of Pokemon and you would flip it up, and whoever had more attack power to kill the other hit points of the other person faster would win both Poke cards, and then you'd keep going.
That's awesome.
Like
Yeah.
a solid iteration. I mean, it's about as complicated as
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to get into it at a young, just in general for first-time players. Brian and Bryce will laugh. That's how I used to play Magic: The Gathering when I first started. when Magic was around in the '90s, and I had no idea how to play that as well. But now I do. I'm slowly.
It's still around. It's still around.
Yeah,
it's still big. It's still huge. Yeah.
I'm getting into it now.
Gathering before I learned to play Pokemon.
Yeah. Which is wild because strategy there. But my
Nerd alert.
highly recommend the Game Boy game, Pokemon trading card game for first-time players. It really teaches. I mean, that's how I learned eventually how to play it. That was my first actual way of playing the trading card game, and it was addicting. That Game Boy game is a lot of fun if you haven't played it. Yeah. Not to derail our flow.
I've never played the card game. I have collected some of the cards because Bulbasaur. But so on the DS game or the video game, the Game Boy game, can you trade cards with other players or no?
Yes.
Like if you had like the link cable or whatever?
Link cable, yes. You would be able to play other players and trade packs and cards through the link cable.
Nice.
And then, of course, now, just on that topic, for those who play it digitally now, every time you buy a physical pack of cards, you get digital codes. Yeah. So you actually get it's like when you buy a pack, you get 2 packs. You get the digital version. But the cool thing is you don't get the exact same cards. So your digital booster pack will be completely different than the booster pack you bought in physical form. Oh, so if you're into it's a great way to I mean that's like one of my favorite things to do.
News. I haven't put mine stuff in, so
great.
I have a huge
another thing for me to get into
of those free packs.
Hey, when you do, let me know. I'm obsessed with Pokemon the trading card game now, at least digitally. All of us should just play. But
can we just throw in a real quick fun question real quick?
Just a quick question.
So those of us who started the on the video games or play the video games, what's your favorite starter Pokemon? Dave, let's go with you.
Of all the
which
games?
Which gen? Or all gens?
Whichever. All gens.
All gens.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. The right answer is this guy. My number one favorite starter, my number one favorite Pokemon. Yeah, this was my first starter on Blue. And I still have my original, he's evolved into Venusaur. He's a big boy now, but Bulbasaur is my guy. In fact,
this is a podcast, so guys, it is Bulbasaur, by the way.
Oh yeah, we have to actually say
it is a podcast.
This guy.
Sorry.
He held up a very cute little. Now this is a pop. This is a figure pop.
This is a pop.
Yeah, a Funko Pop.
It is, and
Bulbasaur.
So is this one.
Ooh.
This also is a Bulbasaur pop. This one is flocked, so he's fuzzy.
Ooh, fuzzy flock.
This
fuzzy
one, this one is a 3D printed Bulbasaur that the guy who came to repair my washing machine gave me.
Oh yeah,
because he's a Pokemon nerd too.
That's what's up.
Nice.
We find each other.
What do you
us
got?
nerds.
It seems like everyone's pretty much Bulbasaur. I don't want to take a guess on Brian's. I won't steal your thunder, but I do have a nice gut guess on your favorite. But mine is hands down Squirtle gang for life. Yeah, I'm a big water. If I was a trainer, I'd be water and or ice for my actual elementals for Pokemon. But yeah, Squirtle was my absolute favorite. He was my first I picked. Blastoise. Come on, who doesn't love a giant kaiju turtle with tank cannons on his back?
Super.
Come on, so badass.
It's a nice design.
Yeah,
but
then the Squirtle squad in the anime show made me fall in love with them so much.
Absolutely, the glasses,
Yes.
Genius.
Yeah, so Squirrel's my favorite. Runner-up would be Froakie, because Greninja is one of my later favorite water types. Just so badass too, like Shinobi Pokemon with his tongue as the scarf. Yeah, such a great design too. But yeah, Squirtle.
Nice.
It's a great design, but it's kind of gross. I mean,
I can't do it myself.
So this is a podcast, and everyone just tried to lick their ear.
Yeah.
Brian.
I can't get close.
I'm gonna even everything out. Charmander. That's my guy.
Oh.
From the first time, and pretty much any other time I can pick Charmander, that's my dude. Yeah. Big giant fire breathing dragon. Hell yeah. All about that.
As someone who's never beaten Red and hasn't even started his copy of Silver, like I really can't say anything other than who I actually started with, which is Plant Butt, which is what I named him in the game.
Yeah.
Plant Butt
This guy?
is Plant Butt.
Bulbasaur? Okay.
Bulbasaur was who I picked because mostly for strategy. I knew that the first several gyms he was either going to be unaffected or strong against them, and I was like, cool, this will get me where I need to go. And then as soon as I don't know, I think I have to go take Machamp somewhere, but anyway, so I'm trying to figure out where in this game I'm actually stuck.
Yeah, that's half.
But my starter was Bulbasaur. But after watching a bunch of this Ultimate Adventures.
Oh yeah,
I feel like
we watched a little bit of the show last night.
I gotta try. What's his name? Grookey.
Yeah.
So
that's
my
Grookey's cool.
So
Grookey's
I typically always go for fire type until Grookey came along because his evolved form plays drums and feel that I play drums, and so I was just like, oh hell yeah, like I'll get you're gonna get all the starters anyways, but I'm like, no, this will be my guy for this game. So yeah,
I think in all honesty, even though I would probably maybe go with Bulbasaur for second. I would say second Bulbasaur is my favorite starter, but that's because I didn't start playing like Red. Leaf Green wasn't my first game, right? So for me, I would have to go with Piplup. Is that Piplup there? One of these is Piplup. This is a podcast, guys. So I am wearing little dangly charms that I got at the Pokemon Center in Japan on my earrings, which is pretty good. So that's my little Piplup. I also have Shinx on this ear.
Nice.
But yeah, so he was my first, and I do agree, water types are very fun. So are grass types, but they're all great. The starters are wonderful, guys. The only thing I was ever mad about ever in my life was picking Litten because I'm a cat lover. And then when Litten was fully evolved, shooting fire would be out of its groin and not the mouth. That bothered me so much. You have no idea. Because when he's little, it's cute. The fire's coming out of his mouth, but then he's a big sumo wrestler going like this, and the fire's shooting out his belt area.
Yeah.
But yeah, Piplup's a good one. Yeah. I mean, come on, giant battling penguin. That's just as cool as turtle with guns.
Definitely.
So Pal World. No, I'm just kidding.
More on that later.
We'll definitely get
More on that later.
Well, Bryce, what do you got for us now?
Okay, so I'm gonna take you back in time.
I love a time machine.
Okay, so we're going back.
How many times are we going to say that, just for the record, on this podcast? I think we eclipsed
especially
20.
because Shannon is here, is going to happen probably a lot. And it's even worse because we're on video and now we're like using visual aids and remembering, oh yeah, we can't do that. So back in time, this game, and obviously anybody else who's got extra little factoids can jump on in, is created by a man named Satoshi Tajiri. And he was a kid who liked nature and liked bugs. And he would go around in his like local area in Japan, and he would go and collect various just little bugs, and he'd go outside and he'd play. And he was so good at it that like he was kind of revered as like Mr. Bug by all the kids that knew him in school. And one day they paved paradise and put in a parking lot for an arcade, and the place where he went to go and like look for like little bugs and stuff was now a building. And urban development had like ruined his like little nature place. And especially for those of us who really do need something to fidget with, there is a lot of solace that can be found in a nice little park or a little spot of nature where development hasn't happened yet. And with this, new building showing up, it's like, oh, this is, kind of sad. So he goes inside to see what this is, and then discovers that he's absolutely in love with video games. And so he kind of goes in the reverse of what your first character in Pokemon does at the very beginning of the game. he sets down his controller and he goes outside, walks past his mom who's just watching TV and goes outside. Eventually, Game Freak makes the game that he really wants that recaptures his childhood. In the Big Hit Show, which is a great podcast I recommend everybody listens to. We're not sponsored by them, but that's okay. There's a whole season on Pokemon, and they talk about this. And, he talks about how this whole idea was getting outside, getting away from just being stuck indoors all the time. Anyway, so Satoshi Tajiri eventually creates or makes the game. And in this insane twist of events, it goes from this little game made by this company that doesn't really even do games to the largest IP in the world. Like Pikachu's bigger than Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
That's insane. And now 20 years later after that, we have 2016, the last summer of peace in the world. The closest we've ever been to achieving world peace, Pokemon Go, where this game that comes from this nostalgia for the ability to go outside and just go and play and be friends with everybody and go collect with each other and talk to each other and enjoy that now is happening in real life through Pokemon, which is just absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
What's wild is Nintendo literally had no high expectations at all for the release of this game coming from, the Game Freak side. They thought Red and Green were just going to sell mediocre. There was nothing to be had from this title or this new franchise. A lot of it had to do with the game was kind of being released on the Game Boy at the end of its life cycle. So right before Pocket and Game Boy Color came around. But overall, everyone thought this would be just a game that's released and people would play it and put it to the side. But yeah, of course, to your point, Bryce, and we'll get more into Pokémania, just blew up. And, it became kind of a stay in pop culture, timeless, if you will, the ongoing zeitgeist.
Because Pokemon is Pikachu is bigger than Mario.
Yeah.
And Mario was Mario is still the mascot for Nintendo. Pikachu has eclipsed him. Star Wars, I think, is the 5th largest IP in the world or something like that. And Mickey Mouse is somewhere in between those two. But Pikachu is literally number one. And I think the testament to the franchise itself, and much like what I was saying earlier, is that there's all these other ways to enjoy this franchise. And it's just so expansive that every couple of years, something else will drag me back in, at least to the franchise, whether that be Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap, the show, a movie. I was starting to fall off from watching Pokemon because we had switched to Dish and we didn't get local channels anymore, so I couldn't watch KTLA. We didn't have WB on our program. And then the movie came out and it was I have to have this. I have to go get that Mewtwo card.
The card and movies.
And go see this. And so every couple of years, Pokemon just gets you and grabs you right back. And I think that's something really impressive. But talking exclusively to the origin of the actual game itself, because obviously Satoshi Tajiri and that whole part of the story, I think just fascinates me. And then as I've mentioned in multiple other podcasts, when America starts to get really afraid of the new popular thing, I also really like talking about that. But and there's a whole bunch to say about that, whether or not Pokemon is satanic, whether or not Pokemon is Japan trying to win the culture war, like you can in Civ 5. Whatever, that happens, at least the original Pokémania, I feel like that is Nick's kind of research wheelhouse. So Nick, can you talk to us about that?
Oh my gosh. Please remind me of the creator. I don't want to butcher it.
Satoshi Tajiri. Fun fact, Satoshi is Ash's name in the Japanese version.
There you go. Satoshi's team, right? Small developers working with Nintendo to license a game, and it was released in Japan around 96, which is so funny because it was released right when the Game Boy Pocket came out. So everyone thought that was just marketing ploy to promote the new iteration of the Game Boy, Pocket Monsters. Yep, was the name for the reason why it's Pokemon. For those who did not know, Pokemon is Pocket Monsters overall in Japanese, the abbreviation. But it ended up, ended up benefiting both, right? And the success just blew up from each, which is crazy. But in Japan, it was red and green versus what we received, red and blue. And the reason we received blue, there was an actual iteration which kind of was the equivalent to Pokemon Yellow here. Pokemon Blue in Japan was the limited edition or plus up with new sprites. It was to celebrate the 1 million copies sold of Red and Green, and it offered a huge success. Nintendo thought 300,000 would be expected to be sold, but over 600,000 were actually ordered for Pokemon Blue specifically. So all that hype overseas, this game had to be released globally, which it did eventually. We received Pokemon Red and Blue in North America, dating back, I want to say, in 98 was when we got it, actually. Yeah, so we actually got it much later than when it debuted in 96. So we 2 years later, US got to enjoy it. And that is when Pokémania kind of blew up. And that was a term coined by Time, USA Today, and some of the big publications in the United States. The release of the games came out when the anime made its way dubbed to the US as well. And it was just a cultural phenomenon. Selling out in toys, the iteration of the trading cards. It was a fever. It was a fever that didn't need more cowbell at all.
Need more Pikachu.
I need more Pikachu. 100%. Yeah. But that was the, I guess, explosion of this franchise heading into the millennium for sure in Y2K. The movie came out, I believe, in 2000 following the release of the games and the show, and everyone just could not get enough of Pokemon for sure. And,
something that's really interesting about the show too is, unlike most shows that were popping into various channels, Pokemon didn't have a specific channel. So it was on Fox, it was on WB, it was on all these other things. So it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you could see this on all sorts of channels. Like they went directly into syndicating. And that allowed for this just mass exposure for kids like me who didn't even have a Game Boy to memorize literally every 150 Pokemon and be able to sing the Poké Rap.
Yeah. Was it the Poké Rap? Was it the Poké Rap that did it for you? That helped you?
It's a training exercise. If they had done that with historical figures, I might actually know something. But these sorts of things were just this brilliant advertisement to just push this product even further, so that even if you didn't have a Game Boy or cards, you still had this access to what the cool thing was, which is something that's kind of rare sometimes. Like, oh, everyone's watching this cool show on Cartoon Network. Not everybody has Cartoon Network. But this everyone could get it. And it was kind of a leveler.
And because it was on different channels, you can get it different times of the day.
Yeah.
So you hit it in the morning, get it in the
I watched it before school, but so many other people watched it after school.
Yeah,
when they got
or
home.
Saturday mornings too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to the game. Sorry.
Did you know that, just speaking of the show, did you know that the premiere of the first episode, Ash Gets a Pikachu, was the most, it was the most viewed debut cartoon in kids WB history?
Really?
Wow.
I mean, I believe it, but
which is wild. And that is such an iconic episode too. I just remember him running into his PJs and getting shocked religiously. And then there's that weird innuendo of Professor Oak hitting on Ash's mom.
Yeah.
Ash, what's your mom doing today?
I never read into that.
Well, now you know.
You better watch out though, because Mr. Mime is hanging around, and we all know what he's up to.
Oh, don't even get into that conspiracy theory.
I have to show you at some point after this my favorite ship theory for Ash's mom, but not now. Maybe later. Maybe we'll talk about it later.
Fair.
But yeah, that's basically it. So the games they sold when they first debuted out here, I believe first sales were over 200,000. The stores and gaming stores were having trouble keeping inventory in, and that kind of bled into the trading card games too. They were essentially Toys R Us and anywhere that was selling the cards, they were struggling. There was a scarcity in terms of inventory, so they weren't able to hit their profits.
I remember when those stores didn't have the cards, it was a huge thing. And the moment stock came in, it was pandemonium. a mob would go.
Dude, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When the drought happened, that was like that too.
Yeah.
They were like limiting who could sell it. They started putting them in cases, like
Target had them behind glass
glass and stuff. Yeah.
Almost Black Friday status of like the late 90s, early 2000s, where like people were getting into fights over these things.
Pikachu was the Tickle Me Elmo of that year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But yeah, in due part to like Pokémania overall, Nintendo saw literally like a 250% increase in profit from what the note said compared to the previous year, which is ridiculous, right? That was I think the Pokemon franchise accounted for 30% of Nintendo's revenue that year, which...
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, as we get to the tail end of that, by the end of 2000, when Gen 1 was officially out, the game released in like 70 different countries, which included translations, right? So 70 different countries, and each country had their own exact translation, which is crazy. So all the Pokemon that you know all were translated specifically for the countries and territories, which is amazing. So, I mean, I think there was a video that I saw where it was, they took 5 different people from 5 different countries and like, what are the names of the Pokemon in each country? And some of them are actually really hilarious. Definitely highly recommend it to YouTube of like Pokemon translations.
Good to know.
Because something you may, as Pikachu sounds completely different. Speaking of in French, but that's. I mean, Pokémania eclipsed in 2000, bleeding into the much. Once the craze kind of like settled down as we kind of evened out of 2001, heading into Gen 2, you start seeing more of like the rival titles too, or the rivals, right? So Digimon, Monster Rancher, and so forth. Anyone trying to compete, Yu-Gi-Oh as well. I think that's when it started getting convoluted. Gold and Silver was the I guess the setting sun of the initial Pokémania, but then as new generations kept coming out, people kept returning, and I think that's kind of just the general. And the last thing I'll say is just what you've been seeing is with each generation launch, maybe with Scarlet and Shield, the franchise is here to stay, but that initial burst of when the games get released is like, you can't beat that hysteria and craziness for each debut of the new gen or new iteration of the mainline game.
If I can add to that, even the cards themselves, like was such a big hype over, what was the last card? The new 151 or...
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I actually went to Japan last summer, which was very fun. But when I was there, they were very strict about who could buy the cards, because that was something my, collector dad was like, get me a pack. And it was impossible. Like, even I was standing there at the Pokemon store staring at the racks, and they're like, you need to be a member to buy one pack. And, you can only be a member if you're Japanese. So they were very strict about certain things. And I think also because of that is because they've seen the hype with these games, right? Like, they've seen how crazy it can be. Yeah. Like, how do you add to that? Like, when Pokemon Go came out, like, nothing is quite that big. Even like when the new Mario games come out, even when something new for Disney comes out, I've never seen hype like I've seen Pokemon hype,
Yeah. And to their credit, like you were saying, when Silver and Gold come out, that's kind of when things start to die off. But Pokemon 2000, which is like got Lugia right on the cover, is one of the biggest releases of a Japanese film in America like ever. Like, it was huge. And it's that same theme going over and over again that we've been saying about, like, just when you think you're out, they drag you right back in. Yeah. And that is something that I think obviously it still doesn't reach that initial peak, at least not for a while. I do feel like we got real close in 2016. Yeah. But that initial peak of Pokémania did have that little whoop at the end. So this is a podcast, and whoop is when I stick my arm up just a little bit and make a noise that I wasn't aware I was going to make, but it happened. So we're all here now. You all heard it.
We have it recorded, so you can't deny it later.
So we were talking about Pokemon. It starts to die off. Not die off, but it starts to, calm down. We're not going as crazy. You're right. It does get a little diluted. Yu-Gi-Oh kind of comes in and takes over the card side of things. Digimon, I think, tries, but doesn't necessarily go that far. Digimon was mostly an advertisement for Tamagotchis, like, without actually doing it very well, because it gets away from itself. Not to mention a dub that is just, like, outrageous, but that's a whole nother podcast. But Digimon does convolute it a little bit, and I feel like there's some, counterculture type kids who are like, well, I like this one because it's different and not as popular, and don't get me wrong, I love Digimon. I didn't have Pokemon in the afternoons because I didn't have WB, so Digimon was what I had for a minute, and it's fine. They can talk. That's cool.
There were some cool designs.
I don't think their evolutions were as
sensical.
Yes.
Yeah, one
Seamless.
of them just turns into a pile of guns.
One turns into a cactus with boxing gloves. So that was one of my favorites.
There's a cat that turns into an angel,
which is awesome.
There's what looks like a fuzzy jelly bean with.
Because everybody knows cats are the lazy agents of Satan.
That was inaccurate.
Me looking over at my
Sorry, Shannon, no offense.
Yeah, there's... kind of.
Did any of you have the Digimon Tamagotchi? Or that was the Digimon's big thing was, digital monsters, right? So they had to differentiate somehow, and I think they were trying to, when the Tamagotchi fad was big in the early 2000s, I think that's how they were trying to hook on. They tried to hook onto that versus what Pokemon was doing, right?
They were trying to be
console space.
Yeah, they were trying to be a male Tamagotchi, like a Tamagotchi for boys was essentially their goal there. And then with the show, I am assuming they're trying to compete with Pokemon, but it just doesn't have that kind of
slap
craze
nearly as hard as Pokemon's music slaps. Okay, before we move on to Dave's, how did he get grabbed and dragged back in? I have another question for you guys. Who did you name, or what did you name your rival?
Oh yeah.
I shamelessly named him after the bullies that made fun of me in school. So
fair. Yeah.
Oh, don't be sad. It's okay.
So this is
I beat him. Okay. I that was my way of fighting back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
now we've got your sad story. My villain is my father. Yours is the bullies at school.
Dave, did you name yours?
I named mine Brian after my brother.
So bullies. Yeah.
No, see, I'm the oldest. I've always been kind of a softie, and until we were, let's see, about 9 and 10, I guess. Brian was definitely the aggressor in our day-to-day existence, and finally, I had this epiphany one day as he was chasing me through the house. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm bigger than him. Yeah. Why am I letting this happen? So I turned around and popped him one, and that changed the dynamic a little bit. We still fought a lot, but I was a lot more willing to engage at that point after that. So, so Brian was just the first name that popped into my head for my rival. Mm-hmm. So
there was, before I jumped onto the bully train, there was a moment when I wanted purity, right? So I did leave him as Gary because that was one of the options. Yes. I think it was Blue Gary, taken after the anime, and I think I didn't name my character Nick. It was Ash, right? So I wanted to have that identity to the anime.
Link and Zelda, I get it.
Link and Zelda and the save files for those games. And then that was kind of a similar thing, just nicknames in general. I just kept my Pokemon the name of the Pokemon because you didn't really think of, I don't think the anime ever touched on nicknames. I think they briefly here or there passively, but
they do in the ultimate one, like that.
Yeah.
Bernice.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to call you Dust Moth.
But all the characters were like, this is my Eevee. Like that's how they differentiate. Yeah. It was weird. So
there's a bunch of Squirtles that say Squirtle that are named Squirtle.
Yeah, exactly.
And also in the games, they don't say their names. The only one who does is Pikachu. They have a cry.
Yeah.
They all have a cry, and Pikachu's cry sounds like Pikachu. But in the show, they were all. I think part of it was that they wanted us to learn the Pokemon to feel connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. No, and what's funny is Charizard didn't though too. Charizard didn't say his name at all. He was the only one that, he...
Did he ever make a cry? Did he have a...
He had he was silent and raw, yeah. But yeah, purity into bullies, that was mine. Bryce.
Guys, I always have... I named my rival Gary because I thought he was a piece of work in the show. But I also... I really... liked having a theme when I would name my Pokemon. I feel like this is like a proper segue, right? Like, how do you name your Pokemon if you nickname them? And for Pokemon Leaf Green, I went with like Greek goddesses, and I made sure all my Pokemon that I kept in my party were women as well. I was very on that. So when I got to, if you guys are familiar, you get to a point where you get an Eevee from the lab. The amount of times I had to reset that game because getting a female Eevee is only a 12.5 probability, actually. And most people, they see Eevee and they think like automatically girl, which makes me mad because it's actually very statistically difficult to get an Eevee girl. I would know.
You put in the work.
Yeah, I put in the work. Okay. And it was worth it in the end. But I thought that was the coolest naming scheme I ever came up with. And then the other themes were definitely not as fun. Although I did have a Pokemon named Zappy McDug, and that was pretty good. That was a pretty good one.
That's awesome.
Okay, but now that you brought it up, what did you name your female Eevee?
Oh yeah.
You know what? I'd have to boot up the game to see if I can remember. You know what? I will get back to you on that because I know one of my Pokemon was Aphrodite, and I can't remember if that
Jinx?
was.
Tell me it was Jinx.
I don't know if it was Eevee or it might have honestly been Bulbasaur. I don't know. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
I named my Mankey Clubbamank.
Oh, that's good.
After Clubbalang, because he fights, and that worked for me. And I named obviously my Bulbasaur Plant Butt.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
obviously.
Good one. That's
And your rival
dude was something else as well. Like I had at least a few names, but then I started like putting them in storage, and then it would come time to organize my storage. I'd be like, "What the fuck is that? I don't know what that is," and it'd be some stupid name that I gave it before I like went to the Poké Center and was like, go to the professor, it's fine. And so like I'd go into the PC and go, I don't know who any of these Pokemon are.
Yeah, because they only had a finite number of sprites, based on like the type it was. So
yeah, I had to start like limiting how much I was naming my Pokemon because like there's some that you remember, like I think Dux is a Farfetch'd, and that's the one you like trade with a guy.
That's the one you trade for,
yeah, and a couple of those.
Actually, the ones that you trade with early on in the games usually come with a nickname.
Yeah, like Marcel is the Mr. Mime.
Marcel.
But that's all I remember about that. Okay, so Dave, how did we're getting back on topic here.
I named my guy Douchebag.
You did not.
I love that.
Yeah. Shitbag? Yeah, Shitbag was one.
I think
How old were you when you knew to call him douchebag? I'm curious about that.
I did keep it as Gary, and then as I got older, I'm like, I can name him anything I want. And then I started hearing about like all my other friends just coming up with like random names. So like I think my silver version is I think he is Douchebag.
Freaking Professor Oak at the very beginning. Douchebags already come in here and pick that one.
And I think
come here, here's my nephew Douchebag. Hey Douchebag, are you a boy or a girl?
Yeah, literally, yeah. And I think
oh my god, can we talk about that but not to cut you off, Brian, but I'm glad Brian brought that up. When Professor Oak is just oblivious to what his he said, doesn't he say grandson and then asks, is it a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
Or no, is that like wow, really struggling with the gender identity right there.
It's a family.
I'm like,
he's a professor. Trust me, he's got his degree in something. I'm sure.
Yeah,
he's absent-minded.
Sociology.
Yeah. My they. There you go.
So I think when I pick back up for like XY Black White that era, I think I named one of them Asshole.
Before they started.
Yeah. So in the newer versions, like they put a stop to that, all that kind of stuff. You can get kind of creative, but like they've calmed down on the more unsavory names. But yeah,
Douchebag. My nephew Douchebag was here earlier.
Sure as hell he was. Anyways,
so Dave. The state of the games now. They dragged you back. How did they get you back?
I mentioned earlier that I kind of drifted out, around Gen 5 and part of Gen 6. Part of that was kind of the repetitive nature of every single game. You grind through to the gym, then you grind to the next one, and then you grind to the one after that.
And the Team Rocket.
But also in my personal, Team Rocket or Team Magma or whatever. And my personal life, things had kind of gotten a little more complicated. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was single dad in it for the first time, and frankly, I just didn't have the time to play.
Yeah.
I was too busy herding the Ziglets around on my weeks, and on the weeks off, where they were with their mom, I was catching up on the laundry and catching up on grading and all the things that I didn't do the weeks they were with me because I was busy parenting.
Yeah.
For the uninitiated, the Ziglets are what Dave calls his children.
Yeah.
Yes, all three of them. And all three of them are avid Pokemon players. You're welcome. But they got that from me. They weren't getting that from their mother.
Yeah.
No shade to her, to my ex-wife, the mother of my children. She is a wonderful person.
She's just not a gamer,
and she's not. Well, that's not exactly true. I will share this one story. So she got into the Zelda games with Majora's Mask and the Ocarina of Time on the N64. And watching her play those games used to stress me out because she's not a gamer. And so she'd jump but just miss the ledge, or, just it would just stress me out. And so I would have to sit behind her while she played, so she couldn't see me reacting to her playing out of the corner of her eye or anything, because that would stress her out more, which would stress me out more. So anyway,
understandable.
But yeah, so I bought Pokemon Black. And then I ended up giving it to one of the Ziglets to play once they were a little older and, had kind of worked up to that level. And, I skipped X and Y entirely. But then I saw the ads. I was at school one day, on the YouTube on my prep period. And somehow something in the algorithm decided that I needed to see the trailer for Sun and Moon.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So I watched the trailer for Sun and Moon. I was like, oh, well now, hello there. It was. I'm like, okay, this looks different. It looks like something I'd be interested in again.
They kind of revamped some stuff, and
I really liked Sun and Moon, and
I did too.
Yeah,
is that the island one?
Yes.
Yes, it gets a lot of people didn't like the Z moves, I think, and other stuff, but I thought that was fun. It was something new.
I loved the Z moves.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, well, so I get the people that a lot of people have a fondness for the Mega Evolutions because that was their first extra special regional battle thing or whatever. But one of the things I really liked about the Z moves is that it made every Pokemon viable for big battles. So one of the things that I liked about Gen 7, that Sun and Moon, was there's still some grind, but you're not going from gym to gym. You've got these totem challenges to navigate. And so instead of having to grind through, the 14 apprentice trainers at the gym, you've got to go track down the big totem monster or Pokemon and wrangle them in. Kind of like what they revisited with. Yeah, exactly. And I like that they've revisited that in Scarlet and Violet with the Titan Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I just liked the designs. I felt like Sun and Moon had really strong new Pokemon for the decks. And plus I had shoulder.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had shoulder surgery right then, and so while I'm on the rehab machine, I've got my TV tray. And I'm just playing along, and just doing my Sun and Moon as I'm doing my rehab.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too. At the time, because it was on the 2DS.
That's how I got roped back in.
Yeah. it was on the 2DS and the 3DS, and I think those games really used the console's power more than it had. So it had better graphics and bigger memory cards, so it could do a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
And it just made everything. It felt like a new Pokemon game rather than just a rehash.
Yeah, and with one of the other things that I liked about this, with as much fun as I had with Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I think were a big improvement. So with Black and White, they get away from releasing the third game, and that they do sequels. Black 2, White 2. And they kind of skipped over that with X and Y. Rumors that there was supposed to be a Pokemon Z.
I remember.
That didn't come to fruition. But with Sun and Moon, when they released Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, that's the first time we've got a mechanism to catch past legendaries in the current gen. In fact, I'm on my Ultra Sun game. I'm in the middle of soft resetting for a shiny Mewtwo in the wormhole. So wish me luck, because I've done it a lot so far and I still haven't gotten him.
I believe
that's
Do you
the
count?
grind is still real.
Do you count your tries?
I am still under odds, but I'm coming up on about 500 soft resets.
Oof.
So
okay. Yeah.
That's a whole nother grind. I can't get into the shining hunting.
Yeah, I know.
That has got to be a topic at
normally,
some point too, because I think I put it on.
Normally I don't.
Podcast.
I don't do the. Normally I don't do the shiny, the soft resetting in the wormhole for the legendaries, but I really want a shiny Mewtwo, and
I get you.
I started to kind of mess around with that in Let's Go Eevee, and I'm like, nah, I don't. That's even more of a pain in the butt. So I'm just gonna I can put on a show, do my soft resets, and I don't know why I guess this is the soft reset motion, but and then someday it'll happen. So
I believe in you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So that's how I got roped back in, and it's I've just been dialed in ever since.
Are you dialed into all the kind of new like Pokemon Go, for instance, also kind of changing the game? Legends Arceus kind of changing the game. Yes. Yes. I've done. I'm day one on Go. I still have my first Bulbasaur. I named him Bulbafett.
Nice.
And thank you. And with Legends Arceus, I sure would like to see them do other Legends games, because the play style on Legends Arceus is so different from your mainline games. First of all, you can be attacked by the Pokemon, which the first time even now when it happens, and I'm well into the game, I've finished the main game, I'm working on finishing the Pokédex, but even now I start to panic when they,
it's like,
I gotta jump, I gotta, so.
I really like Arceus, though. It's
been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the only thing with me is doing everything and completing the Pokédex takes so long, and I have a decent amount of patience, but after a while, ADHD kicks in. I'm like, okay, what else are we gonna do now, though? But
having to
overall,
get
it's really good.
Yeah, because for those out in the audience that haven't played Legends Arceus, it takes place in the past of, is it Sinnoh? They call it something different in the game. It's Hisui in Legends Arceus, but I think it's the Sinnoh region. Yeah, and you're writing the Pokédex, and so through your encounters, you're doing research on these Pokemon, and you got to get every Pokemon in the Dex up to level 10, in terms of research levels. And man, sometimes that's a grind. The good thing for me about it is that your shiny Pokemon appear in the overworld. So you don't gotta just run, which was a total game changer, something that Game Freak and Nintendo had not done before. And they've carried that over into Scarlet and Violet, although I wish they would bring back the sparkle and the shiny sound.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're bringing up Poké I guess you would say, Poke variations, because that's kind of how I'm still hooked into the franchise. I did buy or get as a Christmas present Pokemon Scarlet, but I haven't beaten it yet. I think what the problem is with the mainline games for me is that I am somebody who likes challenges. Like, I will play on hard mode or hardcore. Like, I just beat Resident Evil 2 on hardcore, and I speedrun games too. The games are, you can't escape the fact that yes, they're made for everybody, but like difficulty wise, they're skewed younger, right? So it being too easy, I think when they brought the experience share into, it's great because it eliminates some of the grind, but it just makes it too easy. So it kind of turned me off from like the mainline titles. Where I'm having my fun is the Pokemon Go, because like that's a different type of like it allows me, it brings out like the collector in me. So I love playing Go in that regard, because it allows me to capture Pokemon, right? Pokemon collect in my way while I'm out. It gives me something to do. But then for me, I've been playing League of Legends way too much, and it's the most toxic game in the world, but I love it to death. And I'm a huge MOBA fan, guilty as charged. And when they released Pokemon Unite, I was hooked. I was day one Unite. The amount of hours I put into that, and I still love it because it's my favorite. It's my Pokemon, which I grew up with. I love these creatures, these characters, this universe, but in a game mode, or like in a game type genre that I love. Like it makes me think of the franchise differently, and what they're doing now with Legends Arceus, and they're definitely hearing that we need to tweak the main line a bit. And even in Scarlet, it being more open world in terms of like complete at your own pace, which is kind of, it makes it different, right? Breaks it up. I think you're going to see more of that, and I want more of that, because that's what's keeping me engaged with the franchise overall and why I love it. And I think and also now I'm like obsessed with the trading card game because I love deck builders, and it again, that's how I'm still in the game, and how I came back were these different types of new Pokemon experiences that I just think are so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Tell me more about Unite. Like I'm aware of its existence, but I've never played it. So
have you played? Yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
No,
it's you. I talk too much. It's all you.
The way none of us want to talk about Unite, but also Unite. It is. Have you played League or familiar with League at all?
Any MOBA?
I mean, yeah. Okay,
so it's a MOBA. Let's go.
Okay.
What's a MOBA?
There are lanes.
Let's start with that. Look, old man Ziegler is old manning right now.
Imagine, so the game is a little different in that you are working as a team to try to kind of keep control of what you could picture as like a game board, right? You have each group has their like home base, right? And then there's a lane up at the top with like 2 other bases. And then there's a lane at the bottom with like 2 other bases. And then there's this kind of jungly type space in the middle. As you go,
just for acronym's sake, multiplayer online battle arena. So it's an arena type game.
Yeah. So you're going through, and there's Pokemon throughout like the board basically. And when you defeat a Pokemon, you kind of level up your skills, which gives you higher attack power and other things. And then there's also like items you can attach to the type of Pokemon you choose to play for that game, which can kind of affect the way you might want to play that character or that thing, because there are some characters like on your team who are going to go into like this jungly middle area and try to get buffs for your team. And then there are going to be some people who are working on the defensive on certain lanes, like the top and the bottom, to make sure that your bases don't get compromised. And basically you go through defeating Pokemon, gaining these like little orbs. Do they have a name? The little balls, the little orbs?
Not too sure, but it's experience. And
it's experience. It's points, and then you like literally slam dunk them into the the bases. Yeah. And once you get to a certain point, it's destroyed.
Each MOBA is a little different, right? But the main objective is to defeat your other team or destroy the bases, or like you're destroying a base and or defeating the team in whatever the rules are, right? Whatever that game is. So like League of Legends, you actually have to destroy the base, whereas Pokemon, it's whoever scores the most points, right? Because there's like goals around the around the entire map, but it's super fast paced. It's almost like a mix of, I mean, it is like an action RPG. So your Pokemon have like 4 different attacks and you're spamming them. And each Pokemon has a different, I guess, class. So I'm a tank main. So if you played Overwatch, like my whole, like what I'm skilled at is defending and helping my other Pokemon who deal more damage level up faster. Snorlax is my main in Pokemon Unite. So he's just this big boy who sumo body tanky. Slams. He could create like a Mr. Mime shield, which is awesome. And he basically like blocked through people. But it's free to play on Switch and on mobile. Highly recommend it for anybody who hasn't played.
I highly do not recommend it.
If you want to play casually and not ranked, play casually. I don't recommend if you're competitive because to Shannon's point, there's people who are just
too much.
Or they don't know how to play.
Listen, it's a Pokemon game. It's a Pokemon game, right?
Yeah.
So there are children. It's free. Yeah. So there are children who play this game, and there are also people like us who are like care.
Big children.
Yeah, big children, if you will. And so
I'd be in the big children's arena.
I think you sometimes get people who are really serious about wanting to win the game, and then other people who really are just running around, killing Pokemon, trying to say, oh, I died again. Like, and that can be very frustrating sometimes.
It's a competitive game.
Yeah,
it's a
sport, competitive game if you play it competitively. So playing for fun, super fun. Play with friends for fun, super fun. Competitive?
Now, do they have it like broken up? Like, hey, if you want to play competitive, go over here. If you want to play,
they do.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're good there. And I think they introduced other modes. There's like threes, right? So you could play with like a group of 3 against a group of 3 instead of 5 and 5. I've had a lot of fun playing with friends. Like if I'm playing like in a group with people, as long as we are just not caring about winning, because sometimes it's super infuriating. There's also a legendary, is it always Zapdos?
They changed it. It was Zapdos when it first released. And then now it's, oh my God, it's the dragon. It's the long dragon.
The green one?
Rayquaza.
Yeah.
Rayquaza?
Yeah.
So at some point towards the end of the game, you can defeat the legendary and score an insane amount of points that you just have to go and slam dunk. And so that can make or break the game. So you play this game winning the entire time and then can totally be upturned. And so it can get your blood pumping, which mostly, I don't think we think of Pokemon and we're like, oh yeah, I'm blood boiling. But that Pokemon Unite has made my blood boil. So that is my take on it.
Just like watching Ash constantly lose in the league, and it took 30 years for him to finally become a Pokemon master.
So Brian and I were talking about this last night because he gets to, in Ultimate Adventures, Ash finally is like going to become the Pokemon master. And I don't like, and then becomes every corporation's ideal candidate, 14 years old with 30 years of experience.
Yeah, right.
But with this whole like lead up, he's like going through these tournaments and he's fighting, in the various arenas, ranking up in this eventual to become tournament. Like the monarch, right? Yeah. Like with the Galarian stuff. And at that point, he'll finally become a Pokemon master, which is all he's wanted since this show starts. My question is, does Ash not understand that literally to beat this, all he has to do is get 8 gym badges and go fight the Elite Four? Like, did this guy even go to the casino? Does he know? Because it feels like he's going.
Well, no, because he's 10 years old.
He's still 10 years old.
Yeah, he's still.
What casino is going to let a 10year-old in?
Ash, you need to put it all on red, Ash.
Put it all on red. Douchebag.
My great, awesome
Also, Gary showed up in the episode last night. Somebody explain to me why Gary, Ash's rival of like 11 years old, sounds like Wallace Shawn.
Is it him? Is it?
No, it's just some guy. Like, I'm just waiting. Ash, you fell victim to one of the famous blunders.
Oh, I'm gonna be better than you, Ash. Oh boy.
Never go against a douchebag with the league championships on the line.
I foiled you again.
Anyway, so while we're talking about making this game more interesting for ourselves, I feel like this is an excellent segue into Shannon's topic. But before we get into that, I would like to ask another random Pokemon question I've been coming up with for the last week. And that is, would you eat a salad if it was made with Bulbasaur's butt leaves?
Yeah.
Yes.
And with Magikarp chopped in, kind of like a sushi salad. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
They eat Pokemon. It's been established.
They have
like,
to,
As-
right?
Yeah.
Just
As
yesterday,
someone-
we were watching the Slowpoke episode, and I was like, wait, Slowpoke?
Yeah, you eat Slowpoke tails. Yeah.
How do you know this?
As someone who's been vegetarian for 15 years, I would absolutely eat every single Pokemon there is, because why not? Wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to know how they taste? Look at this one. Look at Lechonk. And tell me that you wouldn't want to take a bite out of bacon. Bacon made of Lechonk. Come on.
Or Tauros, some like nice or no, like
Tauros burger.
yeah, it's like a bison burger, some venison. What's the deer Pokemon?
Stantler.
Yeah, there you
Stantler,
go.
yeah.
Ooh, good venison.
Fun fact,
I mean, that-
named my Stantler Waldorf.
Nice.
Thank you.
Do you think certain Pokemon are so beloved that there would be a ban on eating them, like Pikachu's?
Oh yeah, there's probably like you can't eat a Jinx. You can't eat a Mr. Mime.
Listen, I've just
They're too much
established,
like
Bryce,
people.
I would eat any of the Pokemon.
Including the anthropomorphic, weirdly sexual
Yeah,
one.
see, that's what I was just going to
Absolutely.
say. If
Mr.
you're
Mime
going to eat,
has excellent feet.
if you're going to eat like a Mr. Mime or, well, no, not even a Mr. Mime, but if you're going to eat like some of the later generation starters, you gotta. Nobody's gonna eat a full grown Incineroar, a fully evolved
Oh God.
because it's like people. Same with Decidueye.
I guess
Trev wait.
I was gonna avoid, but
Wait, Trev81 says some thumps. Which Pokemon tastes like dolphin-safe tuna?
Palafin.
There you
Yeah.
go.
so this I was gonna say.
Well, I guess
this
that would
question
be
for
tuna
later,
safe
but,
dolphin.
It's adorable if a Pikachu sleeps in your bed, but it's weird and problematic if a Machamp cuddles up to you. How is that fair? Discuss.
I don't know, man. I want a
I would
Machamp
cuddle with
to.
the Machamp.
Champer.
Oh, I
Machamp's
would.
got to be the
All
best
4
cuddler. There's 4 arms. Did you?
I want to.
I want you to
Tell
imagine
me-
a little kid sleeping
Okay,
in bed with
okay,
a Machamp.
okay,
And you tell me
here-
that's okay.
Okay. But listen to me. Okay.
You could cradle
maybe-
him like
maybe
a
not.
Baby.
Listen.
I'm just
Just
going to keep my
imagine-
mouth shut because nothing that's going to come out of this is safe for work.
Right.
If you were having a bad day and you needed like a hug just to feel better, just imagine Machamp's 4-armed hug making you feel like the safest in the world. And you're going to tell me that's wrong?
No. Or a
Right before he
Machamp back
grinds your
massage.
bones into powder.
Oh yeah.
I think
He'd be a good chiropractor, honestly.
yeah.
For
Now, I guess where's the intelligence
Yeah. Where's that line?
for these Pokemon range? Like, would that be a deciding factor? Because I honestly don't think it would. Like, pigs, for example, have the same mental bearings as like a 3-year-old child. Like a lot of like pets that the people still eat, like dogs and things in other parts of the world. Like they also have, like alligators have a high intelligence. We still eat them.
Delicious.
I love
Like,
alligators so much.
Yeah, so it's like your
I-
Pokemon are kind of like animals, right?
I'm glad you brought this up because I don't know if you guys all felt the same way watching the anime. Like, is it just me or every single Pokemon is pretty intelligent because they're very aware of their surrounding and universe and like humans, like
even Psyduck
even
does
like
it.
Pidgeys. Yeah, even like they're aware that Pokemon and humans live cohesively in this world, right? And every expression that I see in the anime, it's like they look very aware of like we are Pokemon. This is the type of Pokemon I am. And so now just thinking about it, it's
Squirrel
like
Squad
what's the
chooses
intel?
to wear sunglasses?
Yeah, they're gang like Squirrel Squad. How do they know what a gang
got a gang.
is? Like a biker gang. right? That's pretty much what they are.
Watching Team Rocket, obviously.
I think Mewtwo would not single-handedly, he's got a bunch of Pokemon that are very intelligent on his side, including probably the Bulbasaur gang, but he would bring about like a
Squirtle
protest,
gang.
I think.
Show some respect.
The Squirtle gang. Sorry, what did I say?
You said Bulbasaur gang.
I said Bulbasaur. Oh my gosh. Too
I'm
much
sure
Bulbasaur
there is
love in
one.
the chat.
Friendly reminder that Bulbasaur can stand and use its front hands if it wants to, just so that you can all be really confused.
No.
He's a dinosaur.
Shut your dirty mouth.
He's a dinosaur. So I think that there probably would be protests against us eating Pokemon from the Pokemon themselves, which would then probably change the rules a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have like a Pokemon ranch. I guess you could.
There are Pokemon ranches.
There are but how do we know they're not?
That's true.
There could.
I was gonna say Sword and Shield. They have farms with all the sheep Pokemon on it. Like Pokemon are
wool or are those for
Yeah, I feel like that's for the wool though.
But now here's the age-old question too, which I've seen a lot of debate online: is the food that people are consuming in the Pokemon universe, is it Pokemon or is it what else is it? Are there actual animals?
Dogs?
Yeah, because you don't.
Are there?
Yeah, because
I don't
what's
remember
the difference between
a dog and
what's the difference
Houndour,
between a cow
right?
and a Miltank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Miltank stands and openly shoots its udders at you like guns. So there's that.
Yeah, okay. That
and looks like enjoy it. Yeah.
But still,
Shannon, you can make a whole
But you
team
never
of weird groin shooting Pokemon.
Oh God.
So in kind of related news, like Trevor pointed out on the chat that there is a Wii game called My Pokemon Ranch. I don't know what happened in it, but
I think you can get your game into the ranch, transfer Pokemon from there into the ranch, and like that was how you could get Mew for Gen 5, I think.
Yeah, that does sound
Kind of like Pokemon Home.
Nikki, somebody's looking that up, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of like Pokemon Home.
I think, you know what? The Pokemon world's a little messed up. And we've known this because we do let 10-year-old children go out into a field of grass, catch a monster, put that monster in a tiny little ball, and then use that monster to attack other monsters and other children with their monsters. So I think eating them isn't the biggest debate out there in the Pokemon world. I'd still live there.
Cuddle who you want to cuddle.
That's probably fair. So according to the crack research team, who today is me, My Pokemon Ranch is similar in concept to Pokemon Box.
There you go.
And allows players to transfer up to 1,000 of their Pokemon from up to 8 separate Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Nintendo DS game cards to a ranch run by Haley, a friend of BB, who runs the PC Box system in these versions.
Wild.
So there you go.
Okay.
There's also a Pokemon Home where you can store, I think it's all of your Pokemon from the different games.
Yes.
Most recently, yeah.
I know because I'm butting up against it.
Well, this seems like an excellent time to cut where we were. Yeah. So we'll just cut it real quick, and we will come back next week to talk a little bit more with Dave, a little bit more with Shannon on what their versions of, what's got them back into Pokemon in recent years, as well as talking a little bit more about Nuzlocke and all the various different ways you can play Pokemon, and as well as trying to figure out what's an appropriate way to cuddle your Pokemon depending on its size. All this and more on our next episode of Sneaky Geek. So real quick, just a quick rundown. You can find Sneaky Geek on Discord. You can find it on Twitch. You can find it on Instagram. Just look up Sneaky Geek Podcast and it's anywhere there. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or whatever podcast host you listen to. My name is Bryce Rankins. You can find me at Bryce Rankins. This is my co-host Brian Romero.
That's me over here.
At BROM1137. Shannon can be found online on the Twitch and on the Instagram sort of thing.
Yep, shenanigans. Just find me.
Shan _Ann _ Egans. Mm-hmm. And Nick, you can be found at Noise in
Noise
_ice _5.
Yes, a lot of underscores following that suit.
Yeah.
If people really want to find me, they can go to the Liberty High School website and find my email there.
Yeah.
All right, make sure you like and subscribe. We cannot wait to get you the rest of this episode. We're really excited about it. Sneaky Geek is hosted by Bryce Rankins and Brian Romero. This episode was edited by Bryce Rankins. Our logo and website were designed by Allie Nimmons. Our theme song was written and produced by Skylar Johnson. Our Twitch stream for this episode was produced by Nick Frotto. Music for today's episode was from Poké Chill by Mikel. Used with permission by GameChops. Based on music by Junichi Masuda. Mikel's album Poké Chill can be found at GameChops.com/Poké and Chill. Copyright 2024, Sneaky Geek Media. All rights reserved.